This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, so welcome everyone again. Thank you for those words, Yarom. And just to speak a little bit about going to Beis HaKvaros in general, what the objective is, what we're trying to accomplish. As we know, it's somewhat of a tenuous situation when you go to the Beis HaKvaros in terms of the proper kavanah that one should have. Of course, halachically, there is a great machlokes regarding what one's intention should be. The Mishnah Berurah, of course, says that one should not focus their attention on the mace. One should not pray to the deceased, because as the Rambam tells us, that one of the 13 principles of faith is shehu levadoi roy lehispalel ve'en lezulasoi roy lehispalel, that we can only pray to God and not to any mortal. However, there is another opinion, the opinion of the Hasidim, and there is a Pri Megadim that we'll be at tomorrow. There's a famous work called a compendium of prayers, an ancient compendium of prayers, which seems to indicate that one can address the mess to intercede on their behalf, but the halachic view is one prays to the Ribbono Shel Olam, one prays to God directly. So now the question is, if at a Beis HaKvaros one is praying to God, one is praying to Ribbono Shel Olam, so you could do that anywhere. You could do that in shul, you could do that at home. What's the purpose of the Beis HaKvaros? So there's an incredible Ran in the Drashas Haran in the 8th chapter, in the 8th parak, where the Ran writes regarding the question that many Rishonim raise when Miriam spoke the Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu, and Miriam spoke to Aaron. Miriam said, who does Moshe Rabbeinu think he is to separate from his spouse? I'm also a prophet. Ribbono Shel Olam never told me to separate from my spouse. Avram Avinu never separated from Sarah. Why did Moshe separate from his spouse? And that was considered Lashon Hara, as Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest of all the prophets. He was Adon HaNeviim. And the Ribbono Shel Olam came to reprimand Miriam. And in reprimanding Miriam, the pasuk says, Hashem called Shlashtam. Hashem called Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. And once Moshe came, then Moshe was asked to leave, and the Ribbono Shel Olam spoke directly to Aaron and Miriam. So the question the Rishonim raises, if the Ribbono Shel Olam is speaking to Aaron and Miriam, then why does Moshe have to be there for? So the Ran says a very important pshat. The Ran says that for the Ribbono Shel Olam to establish communication with a Navi, you need a connection. Lahavdil elef alfei avdalos. When you're on the airplane, you don't have mobile connection and you don't have Wi-Fi. There's no way to connect your phone. So lahavdil, for the God to speak to a human being, he needs the connection. And there is no human being that the Ribbono Shel Olam would speak to on the dime immediately, except for Moshe Rabbeinu. So for Hashem to speak to Aaron and Miriam, Moshe needs to be there. Moshe establishes the connection. Once Moshe establishes the connection, so the Ribbono Shel Olam can now speak to Aaron and Miriam. So the Iran explains that a tzaddik, a chacham, is a vehicle and a medium through which God communicates in this world. He's mashpia chachma to them. He's mashpia devekos to them, says the Ran, and therefore even after a person passes on, even after a person passes away, these bones, this body, which was the resting place of the Shechina while the tzaddik, while the chacham was alive, continues to be the vehicle upon which the Ribbono Shel Olam is mashpia, his chachma, his shefa eloki. And the Ran therefore says, when a person goes to Kever tzaddikim, this makom is mesugal, that it is a makom that the Ribbono Shel Olam is mashpia chachma, Hashem is mashpia shefa eloki. So merely being at the grave of a tzaddik, one is, so to speak, lahavdil, in a Wi-Fi zone, where had they been at home or in a shul, they wouldn't have that same level of devekos and connection. Being in the Beis HaKvaros, this is a special zone, says the Ran. That is why we find already from time immemorial, when Kalev was in trouble, Kalev went to the Kivrei Avoseinu. So we should be zochen in these Makkah Mesugam, we should be zochen that all of our tefillah should be neskabel, barachim and baratzim.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.